I initially realized that my life wasn't as safe as I had assumed when I returned home on a Thursday night. I heard my wife Lisa moving around in our upstairs bedroom after working a little earlier than normal, so I decided to go up and say hello. I heard her chatting on the phone as I was walking down the hallway, and I managed to catch the end of her. "Talking with you, darling, was amazing today." I thought, when did she enjoy her job so much? I peeked in the bedroom because the door was slightly ajar and she was taking off her clothes and talking on her phone. I knew I hadn't seen her wearing lacy white knickers when she took off her slacks and laid them on the bed. Seen them before, and she told me to leave as I was ready to enter. "He might be. I'll be home shortly, but I have to take a shower first. We'll talk tomorrow, sweetie." The phone on the charger and pulled off her blouse, revealing a matching lace bra that was facing away. She removed her panties from me and tossed them in the hamper, her bra trailing after her as she walked around the. She passed a mirror on her way to the shower, and, as a woman, I had to pause and glance from where I was standing by the door. I could clearly see her reflection, and what I saw in the mirror made me feel very uncomfortable. Her right breast was bruised. I hadn't given my wife a bruise on her breast, but it was obvious when I heard her gasp that she had observed it as well, and she used one hand to elevate her breast while using the other to touch the mark. "Damn her," she said. "Now I have to hide this," and began taking a shower in the bathroom while I stood outside our. "My name is Alex Harris, and I've been married to Lisa for 19 years. We have 2 kids, Lucy, who is 17, and Ryan, 15. Lisa works where I was formerly a manager in the city administration. I work as an architect, and until just a short while ago, I believed that our marriage and life were wonderful. After some time, I recovered my composure and entered our conversation, but it seemed like my wife needed someone else to make her life wonderful. I went to her bedroom and grabbed her cell phone to see the number from her most recent call. To my astonishment, she had a password on it. I discovered that I hadn't used her phone because we had never exchanged passwords and occasionally made calls on each other's phones. I hadn't seen her phone in a few months till I picked up her blouse and smelled it. There was a slight hint of fragrance I couldn't identify, so I went to the hamper and took off her bra and knickers, which were used as anticipated, but there was no overt indication of anything out of the ordinary. I took the digital camera and a plastic. I returned to the bedroom, placed the pants in the bag, and tucked it into my pocket. I also wrote down that I needed to order a. I placed the camera on my dresser facing the mirror, recorded it, and had the testing kit brought to my office. Her laptop was on when I returned downstairs, so I decided to cover it with a tie, so it was partly hidden. We had never used computer passwords before, so when we checked her email, she had set one as well. Another warning sign. I was so distraught that I wanted to confront her as I left the house. Furthermore, I had no concrete proof, so she could simply deny it at any time. Strong evidence. I contacted Lace's cell phone knowing she was still with someone in order to find out who she was with and make him pay. I hid her underwear in the garage and told her that I was stalled at work and would get dinner on my way home. Went to the closest pub to reflect and stew. It was a shabby, secluded spot next to a shabby motel that provided nothing special, inexpensive, basic food and privacy. As I walked into the bar, I saw a new barmaid, and I hoped she knows how to prepare a proper Manhattan, and as it turned out, she did. I met Chloe, who had just started. She was a single mother attempting to make ends meet, and she was easy to talk to. I arrived home at 11 p.m., 10 p.m. Everyone was in bed, and the house was quiet. So I walked up to the bedroom to undress while putting on my pajamas, Lisa Seydoux. "I apologize for waking you up late tonight. It had been a tough day. I emphasized, though, that She sighed and added, "I'm just too tired right now, maybe later this week. Make it up to you if you feel neglected. I'm going to unwind for a few minutes before joining you on this date, sweetie." "Good night," I said, went downstairs to my computer, picked up the camera, and when I connected it in, I discovered our intimate moments had decreased from occurring multiple times a week to just occurring recently on Sunday evenings, and it was evident that she pulled out a pair of flannel pajamas, and as she usually sleeps naked, I cleared the camera and saved the film. As I was leaving, I cranked the thermostat up by around 4 degrees and went to bed. Let's see how she enjoys flannels. When I went to bed on Thursday, I assumed Lisa was either dozing off or acting like she was. I woke up early in the morning to avoid her, since I didn't think I could hide how I felt. I needed to relax and make a plan. I informed them that I wouldn't be until the afternoon, and I then phoned my friend Jane because I knew that JN could. In addition to the fact that we had been close friends for many years, he had discovered his wife had cheated on him a few years prior. Gone through a difficult divorce. We talked about his issues for several hours. John is currently a senior manager at. He had dedicated himself to his profession since his divorce and had received multiple promotions. Nevertheless, his most recent one placed him in. The company's security chief answered the phone on the second ring and asked, "Hey Alex, how are you?" "Not much." "Well," I said, "I need your assistance because I believe Lisa is cheating on me." "Oh Alex, I'm so sorry. We'll do whatever it takes. Can assist, could you please come over?" I responded this morning, "Yeah, I'll be there shortly, John. I've never seen you overreact, so I don't think I am, but with your assistance," I continued softly, "I hope you're incorrect. Should be able to demonstrate it in one way or another." After that, we discussed what I knew when I left, and an hour later, I borrowed 5 digital audio recorders from John, which were the exact ones he had originally planned to use to capture his wife. So I put 4 recorders in my car and drove back home to Los Angeles. I noticed the home was colder than normal while I was there, saving the last one for her car. I checked the thermostat and I decided to have a quick look around after noticing that she had pushed it back down, assuming that she had had a difficult night. I initially realized that she had a few clothing that I hadn't seen her wear when I carefully went through her closet. Perhaps she purchased them, but didn't feel comfortable wearing them in public, because they were bolder than her typical style. I discovered some underwear in the back of a. There were indications of a couple being torn apart in a drawer of a dresser that I had never seen before. I stared at them for what seemed like an eternity before leaving for work after ripping them off her, which hurt. I called Lisa at around 3 and left a message, explaining that I was stranded at work and wouldn't be home till late. When I arrived home that night, I loaded Lisa's car with the last voice recorder before going to bed. I made sure to bed well after Lisa did on Thursday night as well. I listened to the audio and she was either sleeping or acting like she was. I worked an evening shift on Thursday, so I didn't hear anything noteworthy, but I did get the kids there. Lisa slept late on Sunday, so I had breakfast as normal and then washed the dishes. After they finished their food, they went to watch TV. I tidied up the kitchen and microwaved Lisa's breakfast. I plugged in a LAN cable to my laptop, logged into the wireless router, and turned off the wireless access. I texted Lisa to let her know I was outdoors and to let her know where the microwave was. About 2 hours after I left to begin garden work, Lisa came out, was complaining that her laptop was unable to connect to the internet, so I walked in and declared that mine was. I watched her laptop and pretended to debug it because she appeared a little anxious. She soon grew bored and left, but she continued to return roughly every 5 minutes, so I inserted a memory stick and set up a key logger application. The following time she departed, I set it up. I configured the laptop to monitor her internet usage every 2 minutes in order to record all keystrokes and take a screen grab. Minutes, encompassing every website she visited, email she sent, and deleted. I turned the wireless service back up after she departed. I want to locate her and demonstrate Ted that it was functioning after checking my laptop to make sure hers was connecting. Informed her that the hard disk was severely fragmented and that she needed to install a cleanup application. She also recommended that when she finished she pressed this button that day, allowing the application to run overnight and allowing my key logger to transfer all the information to me. She kissed my neck and said, "Thank you, big guy. How can I repay your services?" I grinned and gave her a gentle back pat, and she suggested. She seemed to be anticipating a different response when I washed my car, so I gave her a cheek kiss and said, "Just kidding," before leaving. She was perplexed as I left the room, mowing the lawn, and I realized I had to return to work. Was foolish. I didn't want to spend a night with her, but I didn't want to let her know that I was dubious before I had concrete proof, so I had to treat her normally for the time being. I made the decision to work hard. We watched a few films with the kids this evening. Lisa, because I'm too exhausted and sore to do anything else, cuddled up with me, and it was pleasant. She occasionally displayed playful behavior while they were focused on At the conclusion of the second film, we took a break, and I took advantage of the chance to grab a drink and pop one of Lisa's appetizers. I thought I would go to sleep in 45 minutes, but Lisa woke me up 15 minutes later. Lisa appeared sad when she said, "I worked too hard today, and I'm going to bed." Her disappointment increased when I'm not sure when she went to bed, but the kids wanted her to remain for a third movie. Sunday morning was my sleeping day, but I woke up at 6 in the morning because I didn't want to be in. I turned off Lisa's alarm when she woke up, so I could start checking her data in case she wanted to start anything. When I was about to leave and turn on my computer, I understood that if I didn't see her tonight, she would. Be wary. I activated the key logger reader while it was initializing and entered a password. I began reading the roughly 500 emails that were in the hidden folder because the key logger sends the oldest emails first, and while examining a 6-month-old, I noticed 2 emails from a man named Matthew Cooper. He had a domain name of his own, but the messages concerned her job. Perhaps he collaborates with her. Or perhaps this is the man I identified by name. I also discovered one. When I read it, the subject line was, "Hey, gorgeous," and it seemed like this guy was attempting to charm her. Although he had registered his name as an internet domain, a cursory search revealed that he had no website. Sorted by date, I discovered 6 from Matthew, dated yesterday, so it makes sense that Lisa was lingering near her laptop. Concerned that I might read her emails, I did so, and read the most recent one as my entire world collapsed around me, beginning at he essentially sigh. Oh. In response to her complaint about the mark he left and how difficult it was to conceal it from me. One paragraph in her irate response, which was sent 14 minutes later, stood out. "Well, it happens, get over it, and screw your husband. Even though I know you don't love your wife, I do love my husband, and I don't want to ruin our already troubled marriage. Since you marked me, I haven't allowed him to touch me much, and I won't be seeing you in public. I can't even let him see me nude." This Thursday, it was interesting, but it didn't change anything. The next 2 were from him apologizing and promising to be. He said he'd be gently in future. He offered to take her on a trip somewhere warm if she could get away for a while. He said he loved her. He sounded like a teenager. The last one was from her saying that she was glad he understood her position. She said she'd only take trips with her husband, and she wouldn't meet him this Thursday. She added that she expected it'll take about a week for the marks to fade, and then she'll be busy making it up to her husband. Other emails gave more information. They'd been seeing each other for about 2 months. They met at a local motel where his company rents a room for its long-distance sales guys. When needed, one email gave her directions to the place. He gave me directions to the place, saying that the company had rented room 212 for 2 years now. It was the motel across from the bar I was at the other day. Then a new email arrived from him. It was a reply to one she had sent last night. I was devastated again. She had emailed him that she couldn't go a week without being with him, and that she would meet him on Thursday at 2 p.m. She said he'd be gentle this time. His reply was full of flattery about how amazing was and how he'd make it special for her. I decided right then that they were both going to pay. I needed to make some plans and would need John's help. I forwarded the most useful emails to John and started making breakfast. Lisa came down around 9 a.m. She thanked me for letting her sleep in that morning. I said it was only fair since I crashed out so early the night before. She gave me a hug and whispered, "Don't work too hard today, sweetie. I need you for tonight." I ignored the second part and said, "I'm almost done outside, just a couple more hours of work left." I pulled away, saying I better get to it. As I was leaving, I glanced back and saw a worried look on her face. She quickly changed it when she saw me looking. I said, "Let me know if you need anything, babe." She gave a little smile. "Okay." She said, "I was cleaning the garage when Joan called. He asked if I could talk." I stepped outside and told him yes. He said, "I read the emails. I'm so sorry, man." "Thanks." I said, "I feel like, but at least now you know, and you have some evidence, but you don't have enough for court yet." He noted. I replied, "I know, maybe I can get some pictures of her going in or out of the motel. We can do better than that. If you want, you just won't be able to use the evidence in court." He said, "Talk to me. I've conducted a few investigations at that motel over the years. The owner is a decent guy who doesn't want any trouble in his place. I can call him tomorrow and get him to print me a key to that room as part of my ongoing investigation. We'll have to find out when Matthew won't be there, and then we can install the same hidden cameras I used to catch my ex. I just want to catch her, but I also want to get him. Can you look into him as well?" "Yes." "So we'll get on at first thing Thursday morning. Let's try to install the cameras on Thursday or Tuesday. We'll need about an hour. The receiver had to be placed Within 50 foot, he expected to place the receiver in a utility room nearby. When I wanted to retrieve the data, I just had to drive to the motel and activate the receiver from my car. The receiver was also a transmitter. It would dump its data to me and then clear it. It might take up to 2 hours to send a full day's worth of data. The rest of Saturday was uneventful. I initially considered having a quick session and then falling asleep, but then decided to stay away from her that night. As soon as she came into the bedroom, I pretended to be asleep. She checked once and then rolled over to her side and went asleep. I woke early Sunday morning and I left the house before anyone else was up. I called my office to let them know I wouldn't be in that day and then headed over to John's place. He told me that he'd called the motel manager and gathered some information. It turns out that Math has been getting it on with at least 3 women at his little love nest. I'm sure he thinks he's smart having a fool. He's got the time in the room, but he's an idiot for using the same room, John said. The manager also thought Matthew was a jerk who harassed the staff. The last thing I heard was that Matthew works in the room a couple of afternoons a week, but is rarely there before 11 midnight m. Right, Leighton, get a move on. We loaded the equipment into John's van and got to the motel. In about 15 minutes, John knocked on the manager's door and told him I was working with him on an investigation, saying I'd be around sometimes. The manager, Kevin, said that was fine and that he didn't want any trouble at his motel. He handed John the room key and showed us where the room was located on a map. We saw there was a utility room about 30 feet away. John asked for a key to it, which Kevin immediately printed out for him. Kevin called Matthew's room to make sure he wasn't there. There was no answer. We thanked Kevin and drove the van. JN went over to the room and knocked on the door a couple of times, then let us in with the key. The room was empty. I stopped, suddenly staring at the bed where my wife had been with another man. After a moment, I turned and started helping in. Less than an hour, the equipment was installed and tested. As we were leaving, I noticed a laptop docking station on the table. I told JN that the table looked like it would be a good spot for the laptop. I said that if I can get in while it's here and he's not, I can install the key logger on it. JN said that maybe he leaves it when he goes to lunch or dinner. They'll wait outside every day if I need to. I said that first I want to get a GPS on his car so that we don't get surprised. Don't rush things. He answered, I get it. I don't want to mess up the plan. Let's get out of here. They buy lunch across the parking lot. The food's good, and they have a new bartender who's nice and easy to talk to. Sounds good. I'm hungry, Jan replied. The bar was quiet when we walked, and I entered first. Chloe saw me, smiled, and waved. Then John stepped in behind me. Chloe was her face lit up, and she dropped the towel she was using to clean the bar. She immediately walked over to us, ignoring me. She gave John a big hug and said, John, it's so good to see you again. He hugged her back warmly and said, Chloe, I've wondered how you were doing. It looks like you're back on your feet. I'm so glad. She pulled back. She still had her hand on John's shoulder and said, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer thanks to you from the sidelines. I said, Chloe, I'd like you to meet my good friend John. They both laughed. Chloe released John and put both of her hands on my arm, saying, I liked you from the first time we met. Now that I know you're John's friend, well, that matters a lot. I smiled. She said, Hyun's a pain most of the time, but he's okay. She grinned and said, John and I go back a couple of years, but I've never thought of him as a pain. Must be a guy thing. Chloe kept taking care of drink orders for the few other patrons, but always came back to talk to us. When she was done, I learned that she was working as much as possible to save money to enter nursing school in about 5 months. That was around 2 p.m. John and I were the only customers left. I commented on that, and Chloe said that it was always slow in the afternoon. She added, I don't make much in tips, which is a shame, but I usually use the time to study. Smiling at us, she concluded, but it's a lot nicer talking with you guys. The 3 of us chatted for another half hour when suddenly Chloe looked. She turned to John and said, I'm going to tell him. John just looked at her and nodded slowly. She turned to me and said, if we're going to be friends, I don't want any secrets. Maybe when I tell you, you might not want to think of me as a friend. They'll understand, but I want to hide my life from you. I don't want you to find out from someone else. I saw her reach for John's hand and clasp it firmly. She then proceeded to tell me how she met John. She said that he arrested her and took her to a dirty holding cell in a cold room at his office. She said that she broke down when she saw the cell and that it didn't matter to him because he just pushed her in and started closing the door. She then said that he stopped and watched her cry before he started yelling at her. He started yelling at me, telling me how I was ruining my life and how stupid I was. I suddenly realized he wasn't yelling that I was worthless, which is what I thought he was, but that I was hurting myself. Nobody had ever said that to me before, but I heard him then, and I lost it. I collapsed on that horrible, dirty mattress and started crying. John sat down next to me, and she said one word, looked at me with tears in her eyes, and said he asked me, why nothing more. Looking at John, she continued, for the first and only time in my life, I poured out everything, crying hysterically at times. I don't know how long it took, but it must have been hours. When I was finally done, he just stared at me for ages. Then he got up, gave me a little squeeze on the shoulder, and locked me in that cell. I was there for 12 hours. I didn't see anyone, didn't hear anything. I was cold and hungry the whole time. I was coming down from a high when he finally returned and told me it was time to see the judge. Normally, you get a chance to clean up and put on. I wasn't allowed to change my clothes before going into court. I was the defense attorney, so I didn't say anything. The judge was about to condemn me to jail when John stepped up and wanted to address the court. He looked and sounded fantastic in his full dress gear. I can recite him word for word to this day. But what counts is that he informed the judge that justice wouldn't be served if I was sent to jail. He wanted me in rehab. The judge and the attorney looked astonished, and I could see why. I was a mess, a loser who was definitely guilty of everything John had charged me with. Then John was on my side after some hesitation. The judge gave me a chance at a 90-day rehab program. I did a day of rehab with 4 years of probation. If I messed up, I took it on the chin. Looking back, Jen remarked, I haven't touched anything since the day that John busted me. She added gently, John, Alex, I don't work the streets anymore, yet I am still struggle. It's the only way I can save money for school and provide for my children. She hesitated and then added, but if you don't want to talk to me anymore, I understand. I'm sorry, John. She felt herself becoming hugged from both sides. John said, as long as you keep fighting, I'm in your corner, and you will make it. I know you. I added, Chloe, I'm delighted we met and happy to think of you as my friend. It was a good thing the pub was empty and we were in a dark corner. Chloe just hugged us and cried. Thursday evening, Lisa got in around 5. I wanted to inform you that it is 3 p.m. She came over to kiss me after I did takeaway, but I just grabbed the bags and took them to the cashier. I remarked, wonderful, we're all famished. When I turned around, she was looking at me with a pensive expression. I said, why don't you change clothes in the bathroom while I get? She was about to say, but as I turned away and began taking dishes out of the cabinet, her face went pale. I was still quite upset about her deception from last night's dinner, which was a quiet affair, when she sputtered into silence. Lisa wasn't particularly hungry, but I made it a point to eat a lot, and the kids noticed but didn't say anything. I basically ignored multiple attempts at conversation before realizing that I was acting a little rudely and offering. I was a fool, and all I wanted to do was make sure she wouldn't end the romance until I had proof that. I apologized to everyone and shook my head, saying that I had been preoccupied with a job issue and had taken my problems home. Restart. How was everyone's day? We talked throughout dinner in a way that seemed regular, so I made it a point to should pay attention and give Lisa a few smiles because she went to bed before me. After waiting an hour and raising the thermostat by roughly 5 degrees, I checked the speech recorders once more, but found nothing of interest. At 7:25 p.m., it was 25 degrees Celsius in our bedroom, so I prepared for. Without saying anything, she said, night, honey, and the bed rolled away from her. I shouted, don't roll over. After a brief period of silence, she remarked, honey, why are you wearing that flannel top? It's not that cold in here. I choose to ignore it since I'm just cold. I rolled over to her and gave her a hug, and she gave me one in return. Quite warm. Are you feeling ill? I worriedly questioned, and she said, I don't think so. It's been cold at night recently. I pulled her close and whispered, I know a couple ways to warm you up. She stiffened, sighed, and whispered, Alex, I'm sorry, I'm just too exhausted. I rolled away and said, it's okay. Lisa went to me and spooned me, saying, I'm simply too weary tonight. I just whispered, Thursday, I have an easy day. You rock my world. Thursday night. After a few seconds, she drew away and went back to her side of the following morning, I left at my regular hour and drove away because my bed was cold. John called me on his way to work to inform me that he had fitted Matthew's car with a GPS the previous evening and provided me with the website and login details. After discovering that Matthew was out of town, I decided to listen to the bedroom voice recorder. I drove home after informing the office that I would return in a few hours because Lisa had received a call on Thursday. When Lisa informed her best friend Megan in the morning that she had fantastic sex over the weekend, Megan was ecstatic and inquired as to whether I questioned whether Lisa's husband Tom was aware that she had slept with Matthew and failed to disclose to me that I had desired to have sex with Alex. I had hoped to spend Saturday night with him as usual, but he spent the entire day with her, so Sunday night didn't work out. Lisa asked if Alex was more comfortable in bed than working outside because she was too exhausted. Oh, yes, making love to Alex is always preferable. I don't want Alex to take advantage of me in any way, but Megan shot back. I realize it doesn't make sense, but both are nice. I began dating James Harris last year because I wanted to try something new, so she laughed, and he had that huge one, Lisa, who laughed back. So you stopped seeing that huge guy because he made you sore. After he was with me, I was always sore. He's kind, but it's so thick, enjoyable to touch, and impressive to simply gaze at. Megan said, "Hey, Tom will be out of town for 4 days next month, and I believe I'll let James stay the first day they'll be gone. The next days, but I should be all right when Tom returns because we're done with him. Since last year, I've been doing this, and although I believe Tom was becoming suspicious, James and I continue to communicate with him. I thought I would treat myself for 4 days, and you would tell me everything about it." Lisa gave Megan this instruction, and she responded with, "Only if you complete the facts of Thursday's meeting with Matthew and Alex, including all the delicious information Lisa mentioned." Well, Megan, when asked how her breasts were doing, Lisa said, "Mark is fading, but I can't let Alex see it for another few days. He hasn't noticed when he changes in the lavatory or puts on flannels at night." Megan advised you to use caution. "Has he mentioned the lack of intimacy?" "No, but I have to look after that," she replied. Then she chuckled and said, "I was thinking I never had a chance to do this before, but I was." Megan said, "It was a true thrill, and she had done it a few times. She merely made sure to wear protection before she was with Alex." Lisa said she would, but they said their goodbyes, so I don't think so, Lisa. Otherwise, things could get tricky. I believe Megan was also unfaithful. Should I inform Tom? I could risk ruining Tom's life, which was wrong. Then I recalled that he could be curious, and without telling me, I would also wish to know. Would give him a copy of this tape. Megan from earlier was the next call of interest once I finished taking care of Matthew. The tone of their chat changed from Thursdays to this morning. Megan called and said, "Hey," Megan picked up on. "Alex saw that I was changing in the bathroom with the door and wearing flannels, so he asked Lisa what was wrong. He asked me about it after he went to bed, and I told him that although I was freezing, Megan was hot in the room. I guess Alex didn't believe me, but he didn't say anything. I was sweating all night in those heavy flannels. Alex wanted to join me, but I couldn't take the chance that he would notice the mark I had made on Sunday after pulling the nightlight. Ow, but Alex fixed it, so I told him no once again. Since he was upset, I attempted to make amends by saying that I would be with him on Thursday, but he didn't seem to mind. I just kept lying there with this wall between us. I saved the file and closed it without needing to because I was thinking about Matthew and not Alex. I ordered a test kit and had it mailed to my office because I had previously done enough research online. After that, I drove to the motel where Matthew was staying. His room was parked outside, but it was midday, so Chloe wasn't working when I walked to the bar, but I could see Matthew in a booth through the front window. I decided it would be a good idea to visit his room after looking at the menu. So I went to the motel door and knocked. I used the key to open the door this time, ignoring the bed, and entered the next room, where I observed. I removed my thumb drive and inserted it into his laptop when it was turned on and displaying an accounting screen. This time, I installed the keylogger program and checked all of his emails instead of taking any screen captures. Websites where, if he was doing anything, he had been on all the keystrokes and all the data, including the accounting data. I enabled his remote desktop client and verified that the motel wireless had the issue, so I could find it next. I visited a website that provided a free version of the remote control program after the right port opened, installed their software, and made an account under his domain, allowing me to remotely access his laptop. I could even view his desktop on my screen. The website registers each user's IP address and will display that it was. I deleted the icons from the desktop, system tray, and startup screen after installing it from the motel network menu. Then I displayed his counting screen before departing. I returned to the office and spent a few hours working too. When I first arrived home, Lisa appeared concerned, but I was happy and helpful to the kids. She stated it was time for her to go to bed at around 10 o'clock, and I was relieved to see that I was acting normally. I told her She replied, Great, see you in the morning. I assumed she was getting enough sleep because she had some work to accomplish and would be up shortly. I had a lot of data to deal with today, including all the footage I downloaded, so you can see your partner tomorrow. The phone bug data and all the files from Matthew's and LA's PCs, but I wasn't going to do it tonight. She was either sleeping or acting like she was when she downloaded the data from her car recorder and placed it back in Lisa's vehicle. I climbed into bed, moved as far away from her as I could, and went to sleep with the idea that tomorrow would be. Although I didn't mind that Lisa woke up earlier than I did on Thursday morning, I was somewhat concerned that she was going to deceive me once more today, and that when I entered the room, I would have to view the video of her with another man. As she finished preparing breakfast in the kitchen, I observed that she was fully attired for work, which was another first. After I fetched a cup and had a drink, I grunted and reached for the coffee when she replied, "Just in time, sweetie, and good morning." Or two. And when I turned back to face her, she was looking at me bewildered. I apologized for still being asleep. She remarked, "Okay, you're just a morning person. Now you know how I feel most." As I stood up, I didn't respond in the mornings. Instead, I just sat there and drank. The children then entered, and she started to serve breakfast. I always assist her in serving while she cooks, but today I didn't give her a glance, but I caught a glimpse of her. Continued taking, and when she placed my plate in front of me, she glanced at me briefly before pausing and staring at me. I was about to go when she approached me with a worried expression on her face and asked quietly, "Alex, is there something?" I was staring at the door. False. I offered her a hug, and she fell into my arms, relieved. I glanced at her blankly and responded, "Not that I know of. I adore you and I can't picture my life without you. There isn't another woman in the world. I'm pleased I worried you. Woman I want to be with," so I waited before saying, "I hope you feel the same way about me." She tensed right away, began to cry as she held me closer and murmured, "Of course I do," before whispering, "I'll make it up to you tonight." I drove to the motel and downloaded the data while yanking away with force and leaving without turning to face her. I returned home just after 9 o'clock at night, waiting for Lisa to leave for work. Wondered how I was going to get through the day and how I could act normally around people for the entire time I was in the parking lot. How could I view the film of her with another man when she knew what I was going to do? It took some time to download the data from the bugs, and during that period, I mindlessly strolled the house while it copied. There was merely. I started with his emails because there was no way I could talk to Lisa tonight or, worse, go into bed with her. After spending a few hours learning some fundamentals, I discovered that he owned 3 businesses that purchased goods at a discount and resold them to the federal government, a number of big businesses, and the local government office. It appeared that he was seeing 5 women other from my wife. The busy little jerk sent numerous letters about the caliber of the items and requirements. I saved a few emails for a little follow-up. Thus far, but it was a good beginning. I then copied his 3 company files and utilized the keylogger software to locate his login credentials. Since I'm not a certified public accountant, I didn't find many suitable passwords there either. He even mentioned that he had 6 business credit cards under costs, and I made a note of the card number in each. It took some time to listen to his phone conversations, but it was worthwhile when I began to see some links. According to his emails and phone conversations, he had a difficulty when he received a call from someone in the shipping and receiving department of the office, processing the final cargo due to duplicate serial number. Bears. All subsequent shipments need to have distinct serial numbers. Serial numbers. Matthew was irritated and expressed his displeasure when the man argued that the new auditing software would highlight various issues, requiring them to exercise greater caution. After Matthew hung up, he went online and bought 2 specialized printers and supplies. A supplier then called and asked Matthew to. After much back and forth, Matthew replied, "Look, the qualification process takes forever," and I decided to buy from him. That's just the way it is. But I like you and would like to assist the office's procurement head, who makes the final decision. Vendors, but he follows his procurement agent's advice. I can get him to assist you, but it will cost you money. The man sounded thwarted when he inquired about the $41,000 needed to sell $200,000 worth of office supplies. And in order to assist you, you can increase your price by 3 without any issues in the future. The person sounded a little pleased, so orders won't cost as much. All right, how do I get the money to? Your offer will be accepted 2 days after you notify me when it's ready, and he will let you know where to meet. Thanks, he'll give you a call as soon as he can. Lisa received a call from a man in the procurement department. Worked, the man provided Matthew with the sums that multiple rivals had offered on a number of contracts. Aside from that, he received 4 interest-based calls, all from his lovers, including one from my wife, in which we had the same discussion. I decided it was time to organize myself after hearing that the car recorder was taking a break, so I created folders on. I made a backup and moved everything I owned into the subfolders and flash drive before calling John. For a short while, he was incredibly helpful, but when I told him that I required him in his official role, he stated, "Was excellent. However, even though I can't utilize your evidence in court, it will simplify my current inquiry. We've been investigating shipping because we've occasionally had inventory problems for the past few months. Complete shipments disappear, the documentation appears to be in order, but physical inventories indicate duplicate serial numbers. Numbers I have to leave the house before she gets in, so I need to see what you have as quickly as possible. Let's meet at your workplace at 0 p.m. this afternoon. Right now, I don't want anyone else involved." Jan remarked, "I'm buying you dinner and drinks too. I'm trying to forget about it a little. I'm driving you." I strongly agreed, and we sign off right away. I'll spend the night with Jan and get wasted by the end of the day. Lisa will be asleep by the time I come home, so I can use the hangover as an excuse to avoid her. It was about 2 o'clock when my stomach started to feel queasy. I contacted Lisa's mobile and heard her voicemail. I assumed she wasn't in the mood to talk. I left her a message saying that I was going to see Jan and would be late. I got back to work by starting on the video capture files from Thursday to this in the morning. I got my first peek of Thursday afternoon. A woman admitted herself and with her own card. The guy quickly stood up from his desk. They went to the bed for some action after he pulled her into his arms and gave her a passionate kiss. I saved the file on. He had a brief meeting with a housekeeper on Tuesday morning, and when another maid arrived in the afternoon, I knocked on. He opened his door and invited me in. I paid him some money, and we began a session. I took pictures of the scenes so I could use them later. I completed a full backup and made an extra for John because it was almost time to meet Jan. John then picked me up, and we went to the bar after spending roughly 2 hours reviewing what I had discovered. I'm not sure what time it was, but it was around midnight. Exact time, but it was approximately 10 in the morning. That's all I can recall from Thursday morning when I woke up. Lisa and the children had left the house by 9 o'clock when I woke up, and there was a letter on the table stating, "I'm not your wake-up service. You were so inebriated last night that you forgot to set your alarm clock." I smiled, assuming she was such. I called the workplace to inform them that I had to avoid her because I was feeling ill, so I went to the motel to watch the tape. When I got there, John called to let me know that the investigation was getting underway. We had decided to entice Matthew to wear a wire using the techniques that he and his associates had developed, had been located, and a preliminary report had been submitted to the authorities, so we anticipated that the police would. For Matthew's house, workplace, and motel room to be raided and his computers fully searched, there must be no. I informed him that there wouldn't be JN because I believe the raids will take place in roughly. I informed him that I planned to wait 10 days before addressing Lisa, but he added that there was a. Lisa was now seen as a person of interest after Matthew leaked information to procurement. I was going to comment that it was absurd that Lisa doesn't steal when I remembered that I had previously believed that Lisa would never cheat. Either we promised to talk tomorrow. I got home and downloaded the motel data as well as the house data. So I started watching the Thursday data till one. I also noted that he'd been in touch with 2 additional vendors who were bribing Matthew. I copied those emails to John. The first found a few emails from his lovers. Also, a couple of them gave dates and hours when they would be there. I listed those as times when Matthew would be too busy to notice that I finally took over his computer. I couldn't put off viewing the video of Lisa. I fast-forwarded till he went to. When my wife entered the room via the door, I halted the playback and simply sat there, feeling as though my entire world was. I felt hollow, sick, destroyed, and miserable as I collapsed. Yet I was also furious. I couldn't even begin to explain all of those things and others, but ultimately I pressed record and watched them. They undressed each other without saying anything as she embraced and kissed him passionately, while reminding him to be kinder. Other, and went to the bed. I was crying when I saw him simply play with her body and how she was reacting to him. Hadn't anticipated him, and she was quickly doing all she did for me. Proceeded until I witnessed her lying on her back on the bed and giving herself over to a different man on Thursday. The kids were out, the evening was calm, and Lisa and I spent our time alone without any interaction until everyone had left. I couldn't help but examine the car data before going to bed. I removed the data recorder out of the car and duplicated it. Lisa wouldn't have called on the bedroom phone if she had spoken to Megan on the way to work, as I was sleepy and hungover, and she wouldn't try in the kitchen either, because the children might enter at any time. Megan called to see how things were going. Lisa said everything was good with Matthew, but I told him to be kinder. Not to be sore this morning, but he still feels worn out, too hard, and forces me to do things I don't truly want to do, but I had a great time with her, she remarked in a low voice. Megan inquired. However, I assumed that Alex was either hurried or unable to straighten things out. Lisa cried, but he didn't even arrive. He went out with one of his friends, got wasted, stumbled late, stank of booze, and fell asleep without. Megan said, "What did you do?" and asked what I could do. While he was getting dressed this morning, I lay there in a rage, turned off his alarm clock, left Megan a message, it seems like awful timing, but Lisa cried again. I know that most of us do go out and get drunk occasionally. Mentioned tonight to him a few times. In fact, I informed him yesterday morning that I intended to make it up. I didn't say anything because I simply wanted to get to work, but he didn't even say goodbye tonight. Do you think? Megan questioned Lisa whether he was suspicious or knew something, and she said, "No, how could I only see Matthew while Alex is at work? No, I believe Alex is upset that we haven't spent much time together lately. Don't you believe I'm correct when Lisa says that he's avoiding me in an attempt to exact revenge?" She said, "But damn it, I knew he could be with me tonight, the first Thursday in months, but he declined. Truly wanted to be with both of them yesterday. Even if I felt sore again, damn Alex's ego, he's going to find it quite." Megan chuckled and remarked, "Lisa, it's your female ego that's making you want them both in the bedroom." On the same day, Lisa said, "Let it go for now. At least it's more than a guess. Been ignoring Alex for months. He may have resis. Ted, because he perceives that as your dominance." Returned by Megan stated that he couldn't be content and that you should take care of that before worrying about seeing Matthew. I was attempting to. No, Lisa continued, "You made Thursday night about what you wanted, not about what Alex needed, Megan. Give Alex more time." Lisa questioned, "What should I do now?" And Megan remarked, "Let it go. Perhaps he didn't. I don't mean to ignore you. Just think that's the case and go ahead. Alex probably wants you tonight." Saved that discussion with the thought, "Good. She's upset, and I don't have to pay for it." A few minutes later, there was another call. Megan subsequently replied, "Hey Lisa, you initially claimed that Matthew forces you to do things you don't want to do. Why do you? I've managed to get him to be a little softer, but he's still a forceful lover, so let him do what he wants." She claimed that Megan was intrigued and inquired about the types of things he forces you to do. I was lying on my back on the bed when he placed me on my knees on the floor yesterday, and he began his. He was pushing so hard that every time he did it, I felt like I was bashing my head on the bed because I was. Megan also mentioned that he enjoys talking vulgar and that I was unable to get away from the bed, which sounds terrible. It seems a little odd, but it turns him on. Lisa responded, "Men," and Megan replied, "Yeah, Lisa. Indeed, I suppose he takes those sexy films as fact, and he wouldn't stop until I consented to say something lewd to. After I did, everything improved, and it was about 2 in the morning. Prior to my bedtime, I apologize, Megan. You were wrong. I woke up early on Sunday and went straight to work. I departed at around 3 o'clock. Chloe wasn't working at the bar, so I took the test kit with me and stopped at the motel to retrieve the movies from Thursday and Sunday. However, while I waited for the data to download, I took a drink. When I arrived home, I began copying the files into their storage area, and after applying the test kit to LA's pants, the outcome showed that was still favorable, but nothing changed. I had enough time to evaluate the new movies once more, and I was surprised to find. I regret seeing a young woman in a municipal uniform enter his room and sat on the first file sofa and have a few glasses of wine. She appeared to be either 21 or 22 and weighing about 110 pounds. He eventually moved his hands. We're all over her, hugging and kissing her, and he removed her bra and top before caressing her. At first, she was certainly complying with it, but as he undressed her, she started to feel less at ease. When he attempted to remove her skirt, she saying things like, "No, I'm sorry, this is wrong, and I didn't to stop it." She attempted to get up, but he put her back on the sofa and said it was too late. "I'm going to leave." She rolled off the other end of the sofa and headed for the door. Ich miss your Zeitzit. Now you're here, so you're staying, she said. With a sneer on his face, he shoved her to the ground and undressed her after spinning her in his direction. Couldn't watch any longer, so I closed the file, went to the toilet, and puked. After I had somewhat recovered, I prepared a copy for John and chose to proceed. I clicked on the following file, and to my amazement, Chloe entered his room, spent time with him, and gave her money. She told us that she was still having difficulties, but I was shocked to see her acting. 2 further files of interest were found, all of which were from Sunday afternoon. The first was a call to Lisa inquiring. After some back and forth, Lisa agreed to the final file, but he was feeling lonely, so he asked her to stop by, which showed her entering, kissing, and embracing Matthew before leaving for the bed soon after without saying anything. For a specific reason, I called John and insisted that I meet him, so I also saved the 3 files for him. He agreed right away and said he could, so I invited him to come over to my place, but Lisa couldn't be home yet, so I asked to meet him at his office at 10 o'clock. He answered his door a few minutes later, but I didn't go inside. Instead, I gave him the flash drive and informed him that there were 4. I apologized for not being able to view the first file on this, which is the most crucial one. When you're finished, they'll be waiting in my car. This took about an hour, and John got in with me. I don't know who she is, but I'll find out who Matthew is, she added, looking at me. I don't want to pay Alex. He put his seatbelt on and added to the bar. Please provide some answers. I would also like to know what's happening with Chloe. When we got there, Chloe was sitting. She wasn't working at the bar, but she saw us and gestured to the barman, who then brought us a few drinks. He placed them before us, and she gave me a squeeze and an embrace before saying, "Hello, everyone. It's always nice to see you." I also remarked, "Hello, Chloe. It's nice to see you, John." She turned to face him and asked, "Chloe, what's wrong?" With a crumpled face, she continued, "John, you were right again. I have a disease that prevents me from working at the bar. I'm done with everything, and I'm not worried about school anymore because I'm infected and don't want to transmit it. Simply wanted to say that I did my best to be of assistance without becoming a nurse or..." John firmly stated, "You're not done with school, Chloe. You're going to be a nurse." She hung her head in response. "No, I can succeed at this work if I don't have to save money for school, but that's not good enough," Jan said, becoming a nurse in the workplace that day, "and you've been pursuing it ever since. I'm relieved you won't." Chloe stared at us both tearfully as I said, "We'll find another way. Struggle anymore, but I won't let you give up." She looked at me and said, "I could ask for better friends, but I won't. That would be exploiting our friendship." Jane and I exchanged glances, and I answered, "Good, you're not asking," and we all laughed. And I followed up after that because you can't stop us. "The topic is closed, and we'll get back to you." John, I inquired if there wouldn't be some vacancies in your workplace before he could respond. Chloe became serious once more and stated, "I know you're watching, but I have 2 more things to tell you first. Matthew, I hope you catch him because I can see his room's door through the bar's front windows." I was shocked when Chloe revealed that she had visited John as soon as she learned she had an illness. John questioned Chloe about why she claimed that was the only way she could retaliate against him. Had harmed and injured someone else, but she claimed he hadn't done anything because he had done a lot of things to me. As I was heading to work, I noticed a female stumbling out of his door. She was barely able to walk, so I approached her to attempt to assist her. She was sobbing, her face was damaged, and her skirt was ripped. Chloe added that Joan might have been 21 years old and was dressed in a municipal uniform, so I helped her get to her car. "Of yours, I'm confident I'll track her out and see to it that she receives assistance. Hune will come to repent what he did." He said, "I think Alex has some nasty ideas that he hasn't yet shared with me. We can discuss them on Saturday, Lisa. And I didn't talk much. We watched a movie together. However, Lisa was sitting in the center of the room when I arrived with drinks. Lisa and I typically sit next to one another on the sofa, with Lucy and Ryan on either side, and the children sit next to us on the sofa. I sat on an armchair and saw that Lisa looked smug and Lucy and Ryan were unhappy. Lisa then went to bed. I checked the voice recorder since it was early, but I didn't discover anything noteworthy. She did have one email, though, from Matthew expressing gratitude for her time on Sunday and anticipating our meeting on Tuesday of next week. We didn't really. She asked me what I had planned for tomorrow, but I was too busy avoiding her to chat on Sunday, so I told her that I had to. I had a hard time keeping up when I met a client and a supplier in the morning. She stated she would be out shopping. She didn't even have the courage to inform me that she intended to have me meet her lover on Thursday, which infuriated me. For Lisa, the morning marked the start of the end. I watched her get ready, and she selected one of my clothes. I had never seen Lisa wear an overcoat over her dress, but I believed she was being sly because she kissed me earlier. After she departed, I packed up the clothes I had never seen her wear and exited the home, headed to the car. The day off, and since I wasn't sure when I would return, I drove to the motel and switched off the unnecessary cameras. As you can see, I made one final stop before work to the lawyer's office. It took longer than anticipated, but I eventually departed. Certain that the divorce would proceed according to plan, Lisa was clearly in when she arrived home and said, "Hello, how are you?" I said, "Good, thanks. I have a lot of stuff to accomplish. Nothing exceptional." She inquired, "Did you meet with your customers?" I said, "Yes, everything went fine," and she tried to read my face by looking at me. However, she was unable to tell that I'm skilled at that. So when I need to be, I let her sit down for a while before approaching. She seemed worried when I told her I needed to discuss something, but she accompanied me into the living room. Gave her a file, which she examined in confusion. "What is this?" she inquired. When I informed her that I was aware of the divorce, her face turned white, and she stumbled. "What are you?" "I'm discussing leaving this marriage, Lisa, and I'm fully aware of. I'm aware of Matthew, your deceit, and your intention to split from Alex. It's not like that," she begged. "I love you, I don't want a divorce." But I told her it was too late, Lisa. She began to cry, but I felt nothing as I gave her the firm, "You betrayed me, and I'm done with this marriage, it's over. My lawyer is sending you divorce papers," and I stated icily, "Now pack your items," and leaving Lisa stunned for a few moments before she eventually started. I turned to cry and left without turning around because I had already made up my mind and it was time to begin a new chapter in my life without her, and there was no going back. What do you think Alex was right to do? Manage the matter in that manner, or would you have taken a different course of action? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to. For more stirring tales like this one, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.